Don't want to be lonely. That's it.
Didn't Roddy Dyson sing that too?
He did a better job than me.
Hi everybody, I'm your host, Russell Stevens. Welcome to Living Life on Stop Recovery Radio, brought to you by Sobriety Through Outpatient. I'd first like to say thanks and acknowledge our producer, Mr. Robert L. Washington. And I'd also like to acknowledge our studio guest that we have this afternoon. We have Mr. Purcell Booth.
Amen.
We have Mr. Fred Gaines.
Hello.
We have Mrs. Ellen Peter.
Yes, hello.
And Miss Margaret Atkins.
How are you today?
Okay, I want to take a few minutes just to stop and identify ourselves. We're Stop Recovery Radio. The website is stop-phila.org. I'm going to repeat that. That's stop-phila.org. And we also have 2 call-in phone numbers. If you want to call in to share your opinions and views, the first number is 267-507-2320. And we also have a 1-800 number, 1-800-660-7867. Today's topic is going to be on sacrifice. My mistake. It's 1-800-660-7867, extension 136. Today's topic is going to be about sacrifice. And how does sacrifice fit into your life, or how has it ever fit into your life? And I'll just start out by saying, for me, today, right now, I'm sacrificing not being with my family because I need help, because I needed to go away to a program. I needed to do some things in my life, to gain some manageability for myself. And I'm sacrificing being with my wife, being with my daughter, and seeing a lot of the rest of my family members, but also I just want to say for a few minutes that also there's the other side. There's a negative sacrifice too sometimes, because there was a lot, for a lot of years I sacrificed, in a negative way, not being around my family because I choose to do what I wanted to do. That was run the street, drink, do drugs, and doing all that negativity. So there's another side of sacrifice for me, but I don't dwell on that too much anymore. What I do is I dwell on the positive, all the positive things that I do. Going to school is a sacrifice because you have to sacrifice time. There's a thing called studying. You have to do reading. You have to sacrifice a lot of your time, in order to achieve a better result for yourself, or a more successful result for yourself at a later time. And that's what sacrifice is for me. It's giving up something now for something better. And that's pretty much what sacrifice is to me. But I just want to open up the floor and see if any of our panel want to share on sacrifice and their views and what it means to them.
Well, I'm sorry, my name is Purcell.
You can tell them who you are, sir. Sorry about that, sir.
Yeah.
But you can, let our radio guests, audience, know who you are.
Well, my name is Purcell, and I'm a therapist here at Stop, and I've been here for 6 years. But you were saying sacrifice, and sacrifice makes a positive throw to it. So when I was using drugs and alcohol, that was not a sacrifice. It was more of me being self-centered. Because it wasn't nothing positive about it. The whole thing was there. I could have hit the wrong thing and died from it. You understand? But when we talk about sacrifice, and in the end you said it has a positive spin to it. You know what I mean? That when I give up being with my family because I'm trying to become a better human being, that's a sacrifice. For me to stay away from my family to get high, that's self-centeredness.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So, I just wanted to, maybe shed a little light on the difference, I think, between the two. Sacrifice, when in my religion, it was always something positive. I gave God something. I gave up something to God, because of what He had done for me. Something positive. So when we speak of it, I think what I'm asking is maybe we might want to keep that word. It's kind of sacred. Sacrifice. And so if it's sacred, it should be positive. That's all I have. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I'm absolutely in agreement with that. I share the same sentiments as well. Oh, my name is Frederick Gaines. I share the same sentiments as far as being able to sacrifice certain things because in doing drugs, done drugs for 41 years, so being able to stop those behavioral habits is a wonderful thing. I have given up, I have surrendered, and I'm enjoying my new way of life, just being clean and building a good foundation to not cause me to go back into that or resort to those thinking patterns as far as when I'm under pressure that I have to use drugs. My God first, to be able to present your body as a living sacrifice, which is holy and acceptable unto Him, is our reasonable service unto Him, is a wonderful thing because I'm able to receive more now from Him. I'm not saying that I'm perfect. I'm not putting it out there like I have it all together because I don't. The fact of the matter is that I'm saying that I'm willing, and that's sacrificial for me to Him because I belong to Him. So in establishing all of that, being able to have a good solid foundation is a wonderful thing because where there's knowledge, there's wisdom also available. So, in all of that, I think it's a wonderful thing to be able to give up something, to be able to gain something. And I've gained a lot from the time that I've been clean, and I keep pressing and I keep pushing toward the mark of the high calling. And when your life has purpose, you begin to develop things that you never had before along the way. You begin to stay focused, and you begin to be able to obtain information that you're given. And it's real rewarding, and it's a beautiful thing. So I'm still in this thing, learning. I'm a student in this, and I just have joy like all the time and every day. So I'm going to continue to keep pressing.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Well, I sacrificed a lot. I'm Margaret Atkins here at Stop Radio. I've sacrificed a lot. A lot I've gotten out of it and a lot I have lost. So we were talking about the positive, sacrifice being positive. I look at it also being a negative too. When something has been taken away from you for sacrificing, things that you do for others have made your life negative. And that's what I just want to speak, because I sacrificed a child's life to become an adult. I had no say-so because this was put on me at a young age. So I gave up my child's life to become an adult at the age of 8. And it just made me feel so negative about things. But today, I look at it, I'm grateful that I did sacrifice my younger years in a way. Sometimes I do regret that also. On my behalf, as Mr. Purcell say, maybe that's just being self-centered. But everyone needs something in their life, and that's something that I missed, and that was my childhood. So I sacrificed my childhood to become an adult in order to take care of sisters and brothers after my mother passed. So therefore, I'm on a negative and a positive route about that word sacrifice. If anybody can show me any kind of enlightenment or have any words out there of encouragement, what you showed me, I do understand the difference, but I have a negative and a positive on sacrifice. And that's all I have to say to that.
Well, again, Purcell, I think that sacrifice is a choice. That I make the choice. See, I think that you were sacrificed to raise your brothers and sisters. That you didn't make that choice. Somebody made that choice for you. But true sacrifice is when you are the one who's given up something. You know what I mean? Not that, that you were like the lamb. You were like the sacrificial lamb. You were, they did this to you, and you didn't have a choice. So true sacrifice also is positive, and you make the choice. It's not that somebody makes this choice for you. You were an 8-year-old kid who, by rights, they say, 18 now, when you become an adult, and you can make your own decisions. In some religions, it's 12 years old, but you weren't even there. You were only 8 years old, and somebody else made the decision for you, so they sacrificed you for their own gains, not for yours.
Okay, I like that. I really didn't look at it quite that way, but I do understand that the sacrifice that I'm making now is of my own accord. It's my own initiative. It's I'm not court stipulated here or here for any legal reason or nobody's forcing me to come here and be a part of this process. I'm here because I want to be. And like Mr. Booth said, I had to make that sacrifice to be a better man, to be a better father, to be a better husband, to be a better employee on the job, the whole spectrum, so what that does for me is it just helps me in this process, talking about things like, like sacrifice and a few other things. It helps me gain a better understanding of life. It helps me gain a better understanding of myself, There are many more sacrifices that I will probably be making, I want to go back to school, and I know I've been talking about that for about a month now, and there are certain sacrifices that I have to make, especially at this point in time in my life now, and I don't have a problem making those sacrifices because it's something that I want to achieve at a later time, something that's going to benefit me, and my family as well, and for me that's a good thing, I just want to continue to learn, continue to do whatever it is I have to do, and sacrifice is just a big part of it, I don't have a problem with sacrifice, I don't have any ill will or any ill feelings or anything about sacrifice, because for me sacrifice is necessary. It's some things you have to sacrifice in order to move ahead or to achieve or to gain a better understanding or even a relationship with somebody. So I appreciate that, Mr. Purcell, about that. But Mrs. Peter wants to say something.
Hi, my name is Alan Peter.
Hey, Alan.
I just want to not comment, but I want to talk a little bit about. I would like to talk a little bit more about the topic sacrifice. Well, I'm a young adult. I have children. As they talk about the topic, I'm trying to go back and see where have I made any sacrifices at. And at this time, I don't know. but I am willing to. I am trying to make a decision whether I should go back to school to earn skills so that I can get a better job. And when I've inquired about that to the particular school I wanted to go to, I don't know if I'm willing to sacrifice my monies to go back to school because of my situation.
You know, I think, my name is Fred Gaines, I think first and foremost there's no gender in sacrificing. I think that we have to be mature enough or come to a place where we need to, especially when we're heads of families, we have to be able to make the decision that we're going to give up something in order to make it better for ourselves first and our surroundings, because what we do affects others, possibly our family members, friends, or whatever. But we have to be able to give up something to make things better for ourselves. Reason being is because this life is very rewarding. There's opportunities and things that are out here that's available to us and for us, that in the event that we want to better ourselves, it's always rewarding. We just have to condition ourselves to do that. Just use, say for instance, if your father or your mother went through a situation of poverty, then that should want to elevate you or motivate you to get to another level. You shouldn't have to go through that and say, well, it was good enough for my dad and my mom, so it's good enough for me. You should think on a high level, or center yourself around people that can help you in that area, because it's not a good thing whenever you're poverty stricken and you have low self-esteem. You get to a point where it's like your head or your face being buried in the sand. So in sacrificing some things and giving up some things, giving up attitudes, giving up ideas that can basically keep you in bondage, and coming into things that can elevate you, is nothing more glorious than that. So and all of that, and that sacrifice thing is it covers a lot of things. Being able to give up something to get something, but to get something that's rewarding to yourself and in life. So and all of that, I think it's a wonderful thing to give up some things to get some things, especially when it talks about pertaining to knowledge, because knowledge is power, and knowledge will cause us to get, acquire, achieve, and elevate us to all kind of levels. So that's all I have.
Yeah, again, P. I was just sitting here and I was thinking that most of the time when, because I said earlier that sacrifice is sacred.
Yeah.
Most of the time when I sacrifice something, for me, I go to God with it first, and it's almost like making a deal with God, saying if I would do the best with this, will there be a payoff later? Like if I do this, and we said it's positive earlier, right? Yes. That if I do this, if I hold off this, in the end, would there be something positive for me? Yeah. It's almost, but it's in my giving it up, something that I might want to hold on to give it up, to postpone instant gratification, to go through something, to grow through something. Yeah, I go through it to grow through it, right? I don't want to do it right now, but I do it. But the end result, it's much more gratifying than, it's just like, it is like the drug addiction. Now, I could get something instant, and it's instant, but it only stays instantly. you know what I mean? Like it goes away right away. You understand what I'm saying? And sacrifice tells us that in the long run, I'm going to enjoy it, but I'm going to enjoy it for a long amount of time. This ain't going to be here today and going tomorrow. You know what I mean? Even in Margaret's statement about she had to give up her childhood, you know, for her brothers and sisters. But when she looks at her brothers and sisters, and some of them are doing good, whoever's doing good or whatever's happening, so, you know, and it might not be good all the time, but good, you know what I mean? Like, someday she can just shake her head and say, you know, like, between me and God, look what we did.
I can because I have a brother, baby brother, that I sacrificed. He's the baby, mind you. He's 45 years old today. Well, not today, but he's 45. And I gave up a lot, and I mean a lot. From he was 2 when my mom died. He's 45 now. My brother today is a stroke patient. I gave up something to help him. I sacrificed my life to help him. And he turned around and repaid me smoking crack till he fell in the bathtub and they had to remove the major part of his brain. So now he's a stroke patient. Now I'm still sacrificing myself to him by help taking care of him. So when I understand the reward, you know, me sacrificing, my reward is there. It's coming to me, and I know that down the line I will get paid for this, you know. But it's just some things that people do in the process of you sacrificing for them. Like, this goes back to the negativity of that sacrifice. I feel really bad after I sacrificed my time, my effort, and putting in with him as a stroke patient. This guy can't even talk now. He's 45 years old. He walks with a limp. I have to buy him a wheelchair. I done bought him a wheelchair. All the necessities that he needed. I let him come to my home. I sacrificed my home. I've turned my whole home into a convalescent home, more so. Like, because he stays with me. I done access my house, wheelchair accessible. You know, for him, these are the things that I sacrificed. And then I turn around and I look and I say, well, what do you have, Margaret? What did you get? I got a light. My heart has been enlightened. And I know further down the road, on the other side, I'm going to be rewarded for this. And that's where I'll get my sacrifice from. I got it. So, you know, sacrifice is really strong. I understand the positive side of it. And trust me, that's what I am truly looking for, that positive sacrifice. But I also have had a lot of negativity in the sacrifice thing. That's all I got.
You know, usually Russ, usually I just sit back. You know, a lot of times, I think what's happening is that when we get to a place where we allow just our own opinion of how a word is defined, you know, and so for some, it was something that he brought out, as opposed to having feeling obligated, or, you know, I have an obligation to do this, or a responsibility placed on my shoulder because of extenuating circumstances or whatever, as opposed to me volunteering, making a conscious decision to say, well, I'm going to give up this in order to make this work or whatever, right? And so my sister, she's saying, you know, because sometimes for some people, just knowing that I've done the right thing is reward enough. You know, because sometimes it's not just okay that, because sometimes I got to check my motivation and what am I looking for. What are my expectations, and when I assume a role, when I assume responsibility, what's my motivation? exactly what are you looking for? You understand what I'm saying? And so, without a doubt, without including, because I've been reprimanded quite a few times, without making it a thing where to include God in the equation and rewards and this and that. Sometimes I find that there's just a tremendous blessing in knowing that I've done the right thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There many times there's no greater reward than just knowing that fact. That what happened, because this is the type of person I was. Yeah. Because this is the type of person I was. Now, and a lot of us, when we talk about where we come from, selfish, self-centered, always about nothing less than instant gratification, wanting what I want, when I want it, how I want it, right? And to become people who say, well, okay, I'm moving in a direction where I'm starting to be able to see my motives, and sometimes when others don't recognize just me knowing what I've done, sometimes will have to suffice, and not to beat that up, and that's just, it's a beautiful thing in itself. I can hear your frustration, when you elaborate on that, but not to make the show about, and we'll most definitely keep him in prayer, because it ain't over yet, even in his life. But just for my sister, her focus was, am I willing to make a sacrifice to spend my money, right? To spend my money. And so that just, your focus is not right. Not to critique, because it's not about my money. I don't know, you got children, right? And so, more than likely, you probably could fill out a federal Pell Grant and see what you can get. They say you're not able to. And then what I would still try to do is get into some type of program, right? Now, because this is where the sacrifice coming in, because there are always options. So what I have to do, I have to weigh my options, because it's more than, now, many of us, like me and Mr. Purcell, I'm filing suit behind him, and behind a lot of people that I see work here. Education is a paramount activity in my life today, because of what. Okay, and so I know the benefits. So if I have to take out loans in order to go to school, I will spend somebody else's money, right? Eventually their money becomes my money. The money that they spend becomes mine, and the interest from the money becomes mine. But I have to weigh the pros, and I got to look at the pros and the cons. So. There should be, when it comes to finance, that is not the issue. I found for me as a student, the real sacrifice comes in at being willing to put forth my time, effort, and energy into education. You understand what I'm saying? And because that's what so many people, that's what we really fear, more than most of it. Okay, it's been so long since I've been in school. Right? The average adult my age or older who hasn't been in school for 20-some years, first of all, some things have been going on anyway, that my mindset has me 20-some years out of circulation. And you know what I'm saying? Knowing whether I don't know or having learned and found out about the benefits of it. Okay? And so it's some things you have to weigh. Cause I'm going to get out of the way, my advice would be simply go to school. Because not only will it benefit your children, and just your whole quality of life will change. You know what I'm saying? It most definitely will change. And there are always there's always options. Your mother, right? Okay, your children are with you. There are options. You have options. And that's what you really want to look at. And it's not so much as what things are going to cost me monetarily. It's always about what I'm willing to put in. You know what I mean? What I'm willing to put in mentally. Not necessarily. Emotions do play a part in mentally, intellectually. What am I willing to do to affect change in my personal life. You know what I mean? In order that I can be, my life can be impacted on a level where I can become all I can be in this life. You know, not letting little, you know, things that really have no real power, you know, in my thinking. You know what I mean? And you know, 'cause when I heard you say it, you know, there's some issues that I can hear you working with. You know, having tried to go to school, we heard all that you tried some things, and it's just about continuing to seek information. There's so many different OVR, right? Office of Vocational. There's so many different ways. You got some men who can't get the federal Pell Grant or whatever. They go through OVR. Here it is, being in a place like this, because you're in treatment, you're diagnosed with a mental illness. Doesn't mean you have. Listen, see, Sashi just did that. Eyebrows went up. I'm recovering from the disease of addiction. Have a mental disability. Right. So if that means me recognizing that, what is the problem? I have suffered from the disease of addiction, and if that's criteria enough for me to get approved, right, for funding, then I'm crazy. You understand what I'm saying? It's not, you know. So we got to get out of that about what, you know, those terms. See, when I said mental, her eyebrow, not me. You know, that's what her face. Yes, everybody sitting in this room, from the top therapist on down. You understand? We got issues, and we capitalize on them, and that's what it's about: maximizing your potential, become all you can be.
Yeah.
Okay.
No. Well, certain things I'm not going to put on air. So that's why I didn't elaborate on my situation as far as going back to school.
Okay.
You know, we were sitting here talking about sacrifice, and it's funny because we're looking at certain things that we did, but I was sitting here thinking, man, we make sacrifices maybe 100 times a day.
That's good.
There's a sacrifice being made every time you make a decision. Do I take the shortcut? Because I'll be tired if I go that way. So I'll take the shortcut. That's a sacrifice. You know what I mean? But if I go this way, I'll see what's it called. I haven't seen them in a while. I need to talk to them. There's your sacrifice. You know what I mean? Because we're doing it all the time. You know what I mean? But in the end, like Mr. Washington was saying, when I look at it, at the end, I become a better person. Then the sacrifice was worth it, no matter what it was.
Right.
You know, I went this way, and I could have went the other way, but when I went this way, I helped 5 or 6 people. You know what I mean? I didn't know I was going to have to help them, but I did. This baby had a flat tire. I stopped to help her do, you know what I mean? I gave up some of my time, you know what I mean, to do the right thing, and I felt good about it. You know what I mean? And like he says, you know, like my sacrifice now doesn't have to have somebody else pat me on the back. I pat my own self on the back. There's a story this guy tells about this guy, and here's the end of my sacrifice. That he's downtown, and this guy's downtown, and he's begging coffee every day, begging money for coffee. And so this minister gets out of his car, and he's walking down the street, and you know, I always gets him in the morning. But this morning he doesn't feel like it. You know what I mean? So he decides to cross across the street so he doesn't have to walk down the same side that this guy usually is on. And what he does is he puts his head down, right? So he doesn't have to make eye contact. You know how we do when we don't want to make eye contact with people. We put our head down like we don't see them. Only when he looked up, the homeless guy had come across the street where he was walking down. And he gets there and he says, "I don't have anything for you today." And the homeless guy says, "I don't want anything." And he says, well, the minister says, "Well, why did you come across the street?" He says, "Because every day you give me money for my coffee. Today, somebody else gave me money and I got my coffee already, and I came across the street to see if you wanted some of my coffee because you give me my money every day to get it. But today I got it and I want to know if you want some. I haven't touched it. I haven't taken it out of the bag." So the minister says, no. That's all right, I'm good, and he starts to walk, but he says he's compelled to turn around, and he tells the guy, yo, come here, I will take some of that coffee. And so he takes the coffee out of the bag and gives it to the minister, takes the top off, takes a sip, puts it back on, and gives it back to the guy. And the guy says to him, the minister says to the guy, is there anything else I might be able to do for you today? And the homeless guy looks at him for a second, and he says, yeah, there is one thing. He says, what's that? He said, do you think you can give me a hug? And there the minister said he was, and there's a Armani suit, his Bruno Magni shoes, his silk shirt and tie, and this guy was, dirty clothes on, stuff spilled down the front of it, matted hair, he was unshaven, right? But the minister said he was compelled again, and he grabbed the guy, and he held him. And he said as he was holding him, he heard the voice of the master saying, when you do this unto the least of my brothers, you do it unto me. You know what I mean? So when I sacrifice, I have to understand that I do it to God first. Before, his heart is lightened when I do this to somebody. When I do it to the least of whoever it is, my brother who's in a wheelchair, when I do it to him who's less than, I do it unto God. Right. And so a little poem said it makes no difference who sings a song as long as a song is sung. It makes no difference who does the deed, be them old or young. For if the song is sweet and it helps the soul, no matter the singer's name. Because the blessing is in the song itself and not in the world that it claims. For the song and the deed are one if both were done for love of work, not love itself. And the score will be kept above. You know what I mean? That, yeah, he's watching us all the time to see if we would go out of our way for each other. You know what I mean? And you'll know how close you are to it is when you start to feel good about it yourself and nobody has to tell you good job. That you know already that you have done the good job. And there's your sacrifice. You know what I mean? There it is. You know what I mean? When you can tell you, you know what I mean? I love my brother and I went out of my way for him. Yeah. I love my children and that's why I go out of my way. You know what I mean? I know that, I'm going to be inconvenienced a little bit, but in the long run it's going to be, because what I'll show my kid is, if you want something, you can go back to school and get it. And maybe you'll see me. I wasn't a real good student until one day I went to work with my father and almost froze out of the job, and I realized that my father had to go out there every day, whether he liked it or not. And I'm out there freezing cold. I left and went home at lunchtime. I was so cool, right? And I realized then what my father was sacrificing for me every day, and I couldn't even hang a whole day out there. And I said, well, one thing I can do is do better in school, pay attention, stop being a mess, stop getting in trouble. And that's when, my grades started to pick up in school. Yeah.
Oh, I'm glad you said that because you just made me think, because coming up, even when I became a young mid-teenager, I didn't understand the sacrifices that my parents made for me. I had no clue until I became grown.
Yeah. Amen.
I just didn't see it at that time, and I wish I had. Because had I known those things at that time, maybe things may have turned out a bit different for me. I don't know. All I know is how it is for me now, and I'm grateful because I've learned so many things now, and better now than never at all.
Amen.
And I find that as a good thing, and from just listening to you and everybody else here, motive is a big thing here. You do things for a reason, and as long as your reasons are sound, as long as your reasons are genuine and real and positive, it's a good thing. I heard you say a few minutes ago that it's almost like making a deal with God. I didn't like the word deal because when I pray to God, I don't like to think that I'm even making deals with Him. I'm doing what I do for God is what I'm learning that I have to do for the first time in my life. And I do it because the blessings that I get are immeasurable, you know, and that's something that I've learned, you know. So for me, it's all about motive. It's what your intentions are, because I believe that, you know, you can sacrifice for, you know, for something. I'm not going to use the word negative, but I'm going to say, you know, you can sacrifice something in order to gain something, but it may not be divine. It may not be of God. And I think that makes a difference. But go ahead.
Yeah, but, you know, in the beginning, you know, like over the course of me finding out how good God really is to me, when I go to him in the beginning, it's all about a contract and not a commitment. See, it's later I become committed to God.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying? But in the beginning, I'm saying, if you do this for me,
Foxhole.
you know what I mean? Right. You know the prayer, you know the foxhole. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Yes. If you do this for me, God, I'll do this. I'll do this if you do this. You know, because until we become committed, even in our relationships and our friendships and our marriages, that we're having contracts with people and not commitments. And then when we realize how God was sticking with us through the whole time, you know what I mean? That's what, you know, then we start to become, you know, we start to make a commitment to God. But in the beginning, I think all our relationships with whoever is about a contract. You know, if you do this for me, I'll do this for you. You know what I mean? And then we'll get to a point where we understand that we can't outgive him, and then we become committed. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know, I think that you know, and you saying what you just said, I think about the many things I would hear, things that I find myself doing sometimes under that dope fiend mentality. If you give me this, I swear to God, I will give you back this or that. Those same dope fiend behaviors. You know, like making a deal, being sincere, but being sincerely wrong. You know, so in all of that, being able to turn it around. You know, God did our ending before he did our beginning. So if we were lying, he knew we were lying in the beginning. So the thing is, being able to come to a place where you say, look, Lord, here I am. You know me. I can't put no mask on with you because you know me. So, you know, I mean, our methods can be right, our motives can be wrong. Our motives can be right, our methods can be wrong. So in learning all of that, you know, we find out that it's just about just being humble. Say, Lord, here I am. Look, I don't know what to say to you. I don't know what to do because you know me. You know my going and you know my going out. You know my coming in. So look, Lord, here I am. Just give me a chance. Like, this is where I am. You know, just do what you do. You know, I mean, Lord, I mean, just being able to say, here I am, is a sacrifice, because he can't do nothing with us if we don't, you know, come to a place or make a decision that, you know,
we want to be used.
Yeah, we want to be used.
Submission, being submissive.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, so on that, I mean, I think it's not I think, because I want to correct those words. I know it's a wonderful thing when you make that decision, because his hands are tied. There's some things that he absolutely cannot do. He won't go against our will because we're free will agents, but he will do what he needs to do if we make that decision. That, Lord, here's my will, do what you want with me. And therefore, you know, there's some things that you'll see, processes start to take place in your life. And you start to see things start happening in your life, and you know it wasn't you. You know, you can do anything you want to do, Owen, because when you adopt principles in your vocabulary and say things like out of your mouth, once it goes out of your mouth, it takes form. I can do this. You find out that behavioral patterns and things will start to step up for you. You start to elevate yourself to another place, and you'll start to see it. It'll be like, wow, look at me escalating, because you adopt the principle to say, I can. There's passages in the Bible that says, I can do all things through Christ Jesus who strengthens me. So that's what I am.
And I like that, Fred, because I've learned that you can speak things into existence. Mm-hmm. With enough faith and enough belief, you can actually talk it, you know, and if you stay on the road, which is hopefully a good road or a good path, You just wait till you meet up with it. Because it's going to come. It may take some sacrifice, you know, because his faith without works is dead anyway. They said you got to do some work. You have to make an effort to try to get to wherever it is that you're trying to go, or whatever it is that you want to do. You know, as long as it's positive, you know, all things are possible. And I've come to believe that with all my heart. Well, if anybody doesn't have anything else, we're getting close to that hour. If no one has any more things to say, I'm going to close this out. But I'd like to thank Mr. Booth, Mr. Gaines, Ms. Peter, and Ms. Atkins for their participation this afternoon. I'd like to thank Mr. Washington, our producer. And you've been listening to Living Life, brought to you by Sobriety Through Outpatient. I'm your host, Russell Stevens, and I want to tell everybody out there to have a great day.